Hi everybody, this is Al Berg. It's November 21st and I will be doing a video today on voter fraud. It uses some simple math and Microsoft Excel. In the video that follows, I'm going to use the following Excel concepts, so it pays to be familiar with them. I have a longer video that explains some of these, so you can check it out there and I'll be explaining them as we go along. I have two links you can check out. One is the longer video at chirper.com, voter-fraud-or-video, and the actual spreadsheet I'll be using during this demo is here, voting-simulation-small. First of all, we start with random between formula. So random between is going to give us a number between 1 and 100, and you see I just created one and copied it down, and you see it's the exact same thing here. And you see a random number. I'm going to press Shift F9 and that's going to do a recalc, and you see it just recalcs random numbers here between 1 and 100, and we're starting with 2048 numbers. If I select the whole column, you'll see here it says 2049, but we have one extra one, which is the heading. Okay, so there it is. So that's how you get a random number. You can put any number as the starting point and the ending point. If you want to do heads tails, you can do 1, 2, 0, 1, or either ways you can do it, and I've done that. And for here we're getting a random number between 1 and 100. If we wanted to do stuff with fractions, we would have to up that random number. But anyway, so let's continue. So the first so we know what this is. A random number between starting and an ending range. You used to have to do a calculation based on random used to come between 0 and 1, and then you had to multiply and do an adds. But they made it a little easier in Excel. So in the next column, column H, we have a first if statement. So, and we have also a difference between so we're going to test the value of G2, and that's relative mode. So as we make a copy, it'll get adjusted to G3, G4, G5, and let's just show you that. If I go down, you see how it's changing in the formula bar up here? So all I did was I just copied this. As a matter of fact, we're going to copy the last bunch of rows also all the way down, just to make the sheet much bigger. So we're going to test if G2 here, and you can actually, if we press F2, it kind of highlights the cells it's dealing with. So if G2 is less than T2, and T2 is an absolute address, and maybe a better way to do this is to use a name, a range name. So it just tells you what it is easier. Is T2, what does T2 mean? So basically I have a calculation here, and I'll have to show you how that works. So if G2 is less than 50, less than or equal to 50, then it's going to be Trump. If it's greater than or equal to 50, it's going to be Biden. That's going to be 50-50. So from 1 to 50 is, if the random number is 1 to 50, it means somebody voted for Trump, and if the random number is between 51 and 100, that means somebody voted for Biden. Okay. And let's see how these numbers came from. So the only thing you really have to change on the spreadsheet is this one cell in yellow. So if I change to, say, 60, what it does, it adjusts this. This one is not really used because now, and what this is this is the results, the end results. So what was the result of the election? So say that in this particular county or state, Trump won 60-40. So 60-40 just means the random number. So when we simulate this, we're going to do a random number between 1 and 100, and if it's from 1 to 60, it'll be considered Trump, and if it's from 61 to 100, it'll be considered Biden. So we are going to look here. So here in this case, 41 is going to be Trump. Let's see, we'll just see if that worked here. 87 is Biden, 44 is Trump, 85 is Biden, 51 is Trump, 69 is Biden. So you can see it seems to be working. Okay, so that's this formula. This again is copied down. This is copied down. And then the next one is we're looking at, it's a little different. Okay, the first cell I have set up a little differently because I think, what I recall, I think it wouldn't work because this cell is a little different. So you see, here's 2 to 3. So if H2 is equal to H3, it's going to put a 1 here. Otherwise, it's going to put a 0. So it's basically looking for a duplicate pattern. So if you look here, Trump, Biden, no duplicates. And for the first duplicate we have here, it's going to put a 1. And then once it goes back to Biden, it's going to put a 0. So it's just looking, just a flag. It's called a flag. We're going to set it to a 1 if the previous cell is equal to, if the current cell, so if H11, which is the Biden, is equal to H10, we're going to set it to a 1. So we're going to set, as you can see, here's 2 Bidens, we're going to set it to a 1. 3 Trumps, 1, 1, 1. And this is going to allow us to calculate the next cell. And again, this one was just because of the first cell. So it's the only one that's a little different. And the next one, it just says 1. I just hard code this also because it's the same issue as the top one, which actually shouldn't be. But let's look at this one. So if I3, which is here, is a 0, then it just means there's no duplicate. Now, if I3 is not equal to 0, which it's here, 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 and here's the first time it's not equal to 0, we're going to say J6, we're going to add 1 to J6. So this is J6, we add 1, it's 2. Okay, so it's basically just, if you get a 0, it's setting it to 1, otherwise it's adding 1 value. So here we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what this is doing is, you could see it's just counting the number of consecutives. So we have Trump, Trump, Trump 4, Biden 1, Trump 1. It's just a count. And using a tricky formula that I figured out. So we see Trump, 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 and we can see it appears to be working. Okay, so then the next one, the next column, is we're going to say if J4, 1, is less than J3, so if it's less than, we're going to put a space here as long as the next cell, so J4 is this one here. So is J4 less than J3? The answer is no. So we're going to put a space here. So when this is false, we do this part. And we're going to go down and see the first time it's true. We see here, so is J8 less than J7? So here's J8. Here's J7, it is. So in that case, we're going to use J7. So this is just a way of finding the max count here. So if you look here, 2, it's pulling in 2, otherwise it's blank. Okay? And the next column up here is we're just doing a max of K, wherever K is. Where's K? So here's all the different consecutive counts, and we're just seeing that in this case we got 13. So there were 13 consecutive votes for somebody, and if I just press Shift F9, you'll see it'll change. 17, 12, 13, 12, 15, and I'm just pressing it. Now if you look on this table here, and we'll show you how this comes up. So in this particular case, we're going to change this back to 50-50 in a second. Let me change it to 50-50 now. Now I'm going to change this back to 50%. And just to make it easier for now. So in this case, I'll do a couple of more. 11, 15. So now, before I said we had 2048. Again, 2048. So 2048 is right here. So we would expect 11 consecutive. That should be around. And you'll see it'll vary around. 10, 15, 11, 12. And as the numbers get bigger, as you do more random numbers and computations, it gets more accurate. It'll come closer to 11 as the max. So does it tell me anything if the max is 50? It kind of does, because you probably could calculate the odds that it would come out as 50. And I'll have to do that. But in any case, and I do actually, the odds here to reach 40 are 1, and this is 1,000 million, or 1 in a billion. So for a 50-50 coin, if you were to toss it 40 times, the odds in a row and get heads, the odds are 1 in a billion. And I believe 50 is going to be 1 in a, I think it goes up by a factor of, let's pull this down to 50. It seems to go up by a factor of 10, which is pretty interesting. Oh, look at that. I did the exact. And you see it's up to the next digit, so it's up to and this is 1,000, million, billion, trillion, quadrillion. Is this a trillion? 1,000, million, billion, trillion. So 1 trillion. So it's 1 in a trillion to get 40 at 50-50 odds. It's a 1 in a trillion to get 40 votes in a row in this case. Now again, this is not totally accurate, because obviously 40 people could come in. They're all part of the Trump club, or the Biden club, and they all voted at the same time. But the likelihood of that happening is low too. So this is just something to keep in mind. So the number of votes in a row, if it's 50-50, it's really just basically the odds are 1 to 2 to the power of the number of consecutive votes. You shouldn't be seeing this. It's really a statistical anomaly, and when you see it, it doesn't mean it's fraud. It means it's probably fraud. So let's continue with this. Okay, so I explained how this, did I explain this one? And then basically the next column, we're just looking if case 6 is equal to null. So here, if this was null, we use null, otherwise we put the name from here, from H6. So we're just going to say, put all the names of whoever had the biggest streak. So this is the number, and this is the person's streak. Then, in the next one, we have Biden here. And so what we're going to do here is we're using the absolute formula of M1, which means we're going to use Biden, and you'll see that stays the same. And again, the first one's a little different. We're going to add M2, which is going to be here. We're going to add that to this if statement. So the if statement starts the same, so it's going to say if H2 is equal to M1, you want to put a 1 and 0. So we're just basically trying to count how many votes that Biden or Trump got. So you can see here, Biden, if you look here, I'm looking here and here. So we're going to look here and here. And as I go down, you'll see Biden 2, 3, 4, 5. So Biden got 5 votes in a row. And then since Trump's votes are here, Trump, he's got 4. And then you see Biden 6. So it's just counting. It's just tallying each time the vote. And the way we're doing that, we're adding the previous cell. And we're checking H3, which is here. So if it's equal to Biden, we're going to add 1 to the previous value. In other words, we're not going to add anything. And the same with, and the Trump is going to be this very similar. So instead, we're going to add N2, which is up here. And if H3, the column here, is equal to Trump, we're going to add 1, we're going to add 2. So it's just basically counting. And if I go to the bottom, you can see that at 50-50, and we could shift F9. You see here, Biden, we got, so it's just totally random. And you see it's kind of flipping back and forth. Actually, interesting that it is flipping back and forth. Okay, there it then. And you can see I actually calculated the, I'll go over this again, the actual percentages. So the odds, random I use is 50-50, and the vote came out 47.9 Biden, 52% Trump in that case. How many votes for Biden and Trump? Okay, so this is a running count of how many votes they each got. And I think I said that. Again, this is just the maximum streak. And I did have the total votes here. I don't know why this is blank here. You can just copy it down by double-clicking this little box here. And you'll see, just showing me the total votes. Actually, that's why I didn't have it. Oh, yeah. So this is showing me there's 248 votes. Okay, next. Okay, so now we're going to have some additional information here. So here's where we have who the person's voting for. You know, I don't know, with a 3-person election it might be a little different. So this is only for the two candidates, unfortunately. So I would probably need a third, and fourth and fifth. But I'm going to leave that as an exercise to do later. So here you just enter. This is a calculation of 1 minus the cell. So again, if you add 90, you'll get 10%. And you see very quickly. So if 90% voted for Trump, the odds of getting a consecutive sequence becomes really easy, right? So to get 100 to get consecutive sequence for Trump's, you only need 190 tosses. As if the coin was 90% biased to go to Trump in this case. So if you got a lot of consecutive, and consecutive is almost impossible for Biden here. You see, very quickly, you need 10,000 votes and just scales very quickly. So we'll go back to 50. Okay, now here's the number of consecutive tosses, right? Coins went through up to 50 now. And this is the odds. And the formula in this case is the same as that percentage. And then otherwise then it's the number it's the number Q2, which is the 50%, 0.5 times to this power. So this is Q2, 0.5 raised to the P7 power 2. So it's, and if we could, that doesn't help. Here it is over here. Yeah, it wasn't. So you see over here, it's just the formula 0.5 to the different power, 2 all the way. And just for your information, I press Control, the quote, that funny quote next to the one side. And actually, let me make this a little bit bigger. Make it easy to see. I wish I had done that earlier. Okay. So, and you see, and we went through these numbers before. Here's 12.5, 6.5, and so it keeps getting in half. Now, to get the number of votes, to get that is you do the reciprocal, which is 1 divided by this number. Okay, so 2, or coin tosses. So let's just talk about coins for now. So you have to flip a coin 256 times to get 8 consecutive heads. And if you wanted to get 20 consecutive heads, you'd have to flip it 1,000,000 times. So it's a very interesting thing. If you're tracking and it's not, then again, it's possible, but you're going to be suspect. And you see how it scales right here. It seems like every 10 you get another 1,000. Okay. Okay, so this is right now we're doing a counting of column H for Biden. R1 is Biden. So to count if anything in H is equal to Biden. So let's look at column H. And so it's counting all these Bidens. And in this case, there's 1,034. I could put a filter here. Yeah, I'm not going to do. So if you wanted to see the actual count was for Biden, you could put a filter here and then select the column. Oh, okay. so we got for Biden, there were 1028, but counting all the Bidens in column H. And the percentages is the total number of votes, which is R2 plus S2, which is these two. And you're dividing this value. So it's 1028 divided by 2048. And that is 52%. So in this random simulation, 50.2 voted for Biden, and just the same thing as here for Trump. And I have the same table here for Biden and the same table for Trump. Now, if you adjust this to 51, that adjusts, and the numbers change, the odds change. As you see, if we go down, just a 1% change, made a big difference in the odds. Look at that. To get 20 in a row, in this case by giving Biden giving Trump an additional. Probably should do blue and red. So now, Trump at 60% of the total and Biden at 40% of the total. We can see to get 20 in a row, Biden needs 90 million votes. Trump only needs 27,000. So it just shows you how quickly you can detect fraud by even the results. So if it wasn't, if there were too many votes, and it wasn't random, because it should be random, people coming to the polls, and again, let's say there's a lot of people coming to the polls and they're all Biden fans, and it'll show up. He doesn't need that many to get consecutive votes. But if it's 50-50, it's going to be very questionable. And of what I've seen, there appears to be these big spikes that came in at 4 a.m., which again is very questionable. But it doesn't mean there's fraud, but it certainly appears there would be. Okay, so, and these tables, you could just drag them down. You could resize if you get some big issue like that. And look at that. So to get 50 votes in a row for Biden, the odds are astronomical. Look at that. Okay, so, and just the final look, we have a table over here on the right. We have consecutive, and this is just numerical 1 to 31. Okay, and the final table is showing Biden versus Trump in terms of consecutive runs. So Biden had 596 consecutive runs, like a flip of a head and then a tail, and Trump had 945, which makes sense. And you can see it's right there. Now for 2 consecutive, you see Biden had more 2 consecutive, and he's much higher here, but which would make sense, because 10 consecutive is not counted as 2. And then as you see, as we go down, Biden, his last consecutive was 1 at 7 in a row, but you see his Trump here has 4 consecutive 7 things, and he goes all the way to 14. And then we could see a chart. Let's look at the chart. Hopefully it's working right. And this is showing how Trump, you can't really see it unfortunately, but which makes sense, 945. It might be better to show this as a percentage. But anyway, so now once you have that, if you get the actual election data, you can see that you can detect that as fraudulent. And just one final thing, if you wanted to, you got to copy it. You got to control down, then control up, and then you control V. Okay, and that'll get us the voting. And I'll pause this while it's calculating. Okay, so what calculated is done. I've gone to the bottom of the spreadsheet, and you can see it's filled this in. And the only one thing you're going to have is this here, and we can just delete these. If you don't get rid of this, you're going to have a problem with some of the calculations. If you go to the top, somewhere it should have a, maybe not. Okay, it looks okay. But anyway, yeah, right here, ref. The max doesn't work. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to go Control Shift down, and then you can just delete these. They're insignificant. Like that. To still be doing something. Okay, it's recalculating again because the max is, and you'll see here it goes. It's a little faster this time. You can see down here it tells you 4 threads. That means I have 4 CPUs on my computer. Okay, so that that pretty much does it, and then you could play with these numbers to see what happens. I'd recommend turning off calculations that you can do by going here, options, formulas, and then do manual calculations. And you're going to press Shift F9 to do the calculation, to do the recalc. It'll give you a little bit more time. So if you want to, so you can change this to 50-50, and then examine the data. And I guess I should get the data from the New York Times or somewhere and then put it in and see what it actually says. So that's it. That's it for this part of the video. And so in summary, the spreadsheet's at chirper.com. I also have a book, 33 Key Principles for Success. If you go to https to do Amazon, you can see the book. And you could reach out to me on Twitter at Alec Berg, or Chirper. You can go to chirper.com. And you could download this spreadsheet at chirper.com, voting-simulation-small.xlsx. And to get the spreadsheet, you can go to chirper.com. And you might have to scroll down because there'll probably be more chirps, but you could go to 11/21/905, and the spreadsheet would be right here. So you can click that and it would open the spreadsheet for you. Anyway, please check out chirper.com, and you can also find my book, "33 Key Principles for Success," on Amazon. Well, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, leave a comment, like this video, and if you have any suggestions of future Excel videos you'd like to see, let me know. Take care.